Hello and welcome to Dinis Guarda, Cities ABC Open Business Council YouTube podcast series. We are here again to continue our work of profiling the global thought leaders and the people changing the world, and as well creating new solutions in a lot of different areas, from innovation in decentralized finance to blockchain to artificial intelligence, but above all, people that are creating solutions for our society and people that have strong ideas, strong vision, but as well that have a strong profile that has been creating a lot of different things. In our series, we've been profiling from ministers to a lot of other different personalities, but our common goal is people that are changing the world and making it as well a solution-driven place, and as well finding the most important products, solutions, and technology for the problems that we're facing. So today, I'm quite excited about this interview because it touches a lot of areas that I've been facing myself. And as well, we're talking about the global industry experts and as well a thought leader and as well entrepreneur. So I welcome to our series David Kay, that is the Chief Executive Chairman and CIO of Litti Capital, the world's leading blockchain-based private equity firm, and has been working in a lot of solutions when it comes to litigation finance and as well investment solutions for the world of blockchain and the world of crypto. So David has been working in a lot of solutions, but specifically from his profile, has been working solutions that combine blockchain-based solutions in terms of litigation, law-related legal systems, advanced data analytics and investigative capabilities to conduct the best litigation funding and the solutions around that. And we're going to be touching what is litigation funding, what are these different areas of equity related with this. So David Kay is a New York, US-based qualified lawyer and investment banker. Is considered one of the most successful and in-demand litigation finance strategists in the history of the 15 years litigation finance industry. David was founding partner and portfolio manager to a $1 billion private equity fund, working on a litigation fund and performing tasks with monetizing awards value in hundreds of millions of US dollars. This includes successfully enforcing what was at the time the largest international arbitration award in history, bringing in more than $1 billion in cash and securities. The expertise that David has been having in the last decades has been putting him in the pole position of making him as well one of the best litigation finance personalities and strategists, and made him as well create the platform Litti Capital that has a very specific way of creating solutions for the emerging blockchain industry. And I think it's actually one of the most important things that we actually should be talking nowadays, bearing in mind all the challenges that we are facing. So welcome to our series, David Kay. I'm very excited to have you here.
Dinis, I feel like I don't even have to say anything. That was an absolutely amazing introduction, my friend. And I will tell you, you are probably one of the only people in the world that Labor Day morning at 8 a.m. I would get up and join for a conversation. So I am thrilled to be here under the agreement that you're not going to get upset if I'm constantly drinking some coffee.
No, go for it. And thank you so much for being here. I know that is Labor Day.
Pleasure.
I appreciate that you are here as well.
Pleasure.
So David, I think you have a fantastic background. And of course, someone like you didn't appear from nothing. There's an history. And there's an history of you as a lawyer, you as an entrepreneur, you are a financial expert, and as well as a fund manager. So can you tell us about this background, a bit of an overview about your education, as well based in New York, which of course is one of the financial and business capitals of the world, and actually one of the biggest economies. I think it's a $2.5 trillion economy. So I would like to hear a bit about that background and how you stand today.
Yeah, definitely. And look, I'm even going to start a little bit further back because I think it becomes relevant to some of the stuff we're going to talk about later. But I am the first member of my family to go to anything other than community college. And so I came from very little. I put myself through law school. I started at the University of Pennsylvania down in Philadelphia. I then got my JD at Fordham Law, where I graduated with honors. After that, I went to work for a large, very well-known U.S. firm called Aiken Gump, where I cut my teeth as an attorney for a number of fantastic years. After that, there's a little known fact. I had a couple week stop at Bear Stearns. I was actually one of the last people hired by Bear Stearns, never stepped in the office for a day. And you can imagine when I told my friends and people that I work with at Aiken Gump that I gotten a job at Bear Stearns, and then 3 weeks ago there was no Bear Stearns. That was definitely a moment. But I always say that was really one of my first touches with the power of litigation. Not because I was going to litigate against Bear Stearns, but Bear Stearns ended up giving me and a couple of other people that they hired that never worked there a bonus in exchange for not suing them. And that is how I got my first apartment in New York City. So I'm always very thankful to Bear Stearns as being a part of the journey. After that, I did leave and go into banking. I went to work at Jefferies, which is a fantastic bank. I was there for a couple of years, again, cutting my teeth on the financial side. And then after that, I left and went to what at the time was a quarterly liquidity hedge fund, which is you can take your money out every 30 days if you want, and they're only investing in liquid assets. And I came in to effectively found, I was one of the founding partners, and then run, which means I was the portfolio manager of what became $1 billion plus private equity firm. And that private equity firm was focused on, like you said, litigation financing, arbitration financing, with a focus on really complex, large international matters. And I loved it. I did it for the better part of a decade. I left there about coming up on 2 years now. And for a year and a half after I left, it was great, Dinis. I mean, I was kind of in semi-retirement. I was sitting on boards of companies, portfolio companies for large private equity funds, some large public companies, and they brought me in basically to solve a problem, right? If there was a large issue that the organization was having, my job was to come in and basically work with the board to solve the problem. It was great. And then I got a call from Jonas, who you know, Jonas Ray. And he said, I have an idea. And from that call, Litty Capital was born. And he somehow convinced me to come out of that nice, quiet life that my wife has told me I could not have done for another couple of months without it becoming not good. But we are still going to blame Jonas for this one all day, every day, and jump in and work with him to form Litty Capital. And I do want to talk a little bit about how he did that ultimately, but I don't want to go on too long of a monologue. So that's kind of my background leading up to 6 months ago, which is not a long time that Jonas and I got together and created Litty Capital.
Impressive story, and congratulations for that, for those achievements, because it's not easy to, like you said, coming from humble origins and climbing on the first law scale and then the financial and funding, administration and banking, which is kind of one of the most competitive industries in the world and most dynamics as well. So,
sure,
David, I'm particularly interested. So you touched litigation finance, and this is a big thing, but very few people heard about it.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be increasing more important as the world economy. Is it interesting that you use the Bear Stearns example of how was the disruptive moment in your life, but at the same time was a great opportunity. And I think we are in a very similar moment, because at the moment we have the conventional centralized financial systems and legal systems, and we have the decentralized systems, autonomous organizations, a lot of things happening at the same time. So we're going to have a lot of things happening here. So let's go first, what is litigation finance, and then go a bit more, how do you see these bridges between the two worlds?
Yeah, no, I think it's important. So I agree. Let's start with that and then go to the bridge, because the bridge for me is very important. The reason why we created Litty Capital and what our goals are, that bridge is what gets me and Jonas out of bed every day and it's important. But litigation financing, what I like to do is use an example. Okay, this podcast that we're doing is fantastic, right? Let's say Huge Co shows up 2 weeks from now and they say, Dinis, this podcast, it's amazing. That thing you did with David K, it put us over the edge. We want to offer you $30 million for your podcast rights, right? That's a good day. Fair? Fair. Good day. So you say, great, I'm in. That's amazing. $30 million. They draft up this contract. And in the contract, it says that they're going to pay you at the end of 6 months. And one of the provisions of things that you have to follow in the contract is you can't do anything that brings disrepute or makes Huge Co look bad. And if you do something like that, then they get to keep the podcast and you get nothing. And you're looking at it and you say to yourself, you know what? I'm not going to do anything like that. I've never done anything like that in my entire life. You sign the contract, super excited. You're going about your day. And then 3 months in, you jaywalk. Okay? You jaywalked. You got caught. You got a ticket. And Huge Co sends you a letter and says, Dinis, you know, that jaywalking thing, that really made us look bad. And therefore, we are terminating your contract. And we now get to keep your podcast for free. And we're not giving you the $30 million. All right. So what do you do? The answer is that most people get very upset and then walk away. That's the truth. We like to think that the good guys always win or win most of the time. The reality is that they don't. That is often not what happens. What some people do is that they will stand up and they'll say, this won't stand. I want to fight. They'll get a lawyer. They'll start paying that lawyer and realize that it will cost millions of dollars to fight Huge Co. And when they're $300,000 or $400,000 in, and by the way, not making a salary at that point, and looking at their bank account, Huge Co shows up and says, you know what? Let's do this. Why don't I give you $4 million to go away? And at that point, you know how good $4 million sounds? $4 million sounds amazing at that point. $4 million is still life-changing money. And almost everybody takes that money and moves on. And now Huge Co, right, just by being aggressive and just by pushing you, because they are huge, ends up doing something completely inappropriate and winning. That's where we come in. That's where litigation financing comes in. We would come in and I would, for you, Dinis, I would be there instantaneously, right? We would show up and we would say, listen, here's what we're going to do, all right? We're going to take responsibility for the litigation. We're going to finance it. We'll give you $5 million to fight Huge Co. If you lose, nothing happens to you. There's no risk. There's no cost. Let us come in and help. We will help you find the best lawyers in the world, the best experts in the world, and we will go after Huge Co. Now, here's what happens. Now, Huge Co is up against one of the top 5 law firms in the world. They're up against me and the team that we put together. And then they turn around and they say, oh, because what does Huge Co know at that point? Huge Co knows that at that point, they are going to have to face an adjudicator, whether it's an arbitration or a court. When you're fully funded and ready to go, they know that ultimately some third party is going to determine whether jaywalking is a reason to take $30 million from somebody. Okay. So then what happens? That, by the way, the deal we negotiate, let's say you give us 30% of the upside for that. Okay. Let's say you give us 30% of the upside. So then what happens? Okay. Then we come in and Huge Co shows up and they say, look, wow. So why don't we do this? Okay. As opposed to the 30 million, we'll give you 25. We'll give you $25 million. We know, okay, that this wasn't great, but there's a lot of risk. Let's settle for $25 million. Got to take $25 million, right? No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You take $25 million. It's amazing. So then what happens? Here's where it gets interesting, okay? Litty Capital, right, gets $7.5 million. So we turned our 5 into 7.5, 50% return. Not a bad day, right? Pretty good for us. You end up with over $16 million with no risk and no cost. Great for everyone. That's how litigation financing works. But here's the really crazy part about it. Guess who also wins? HugeCo. HugeCo also wins. By doing that, they have saved $5 million, right? Just by ruffling feathers, even if they lose, they still end up winning. And so what's really interesting about litigation financing from that perspective is that is why litigation financing has been the top performing asset class in the world for the last 10 years. Google it up while you're watching this. The reason is because it's attractive for you, the person who's hurt. It's attractive for me, the financier. And HugeCo, most of the time, ends up in a much better position than they were before, even by bringing these ludicrous claims where they are the big guy and you are the little guy. So guess what HugeCo does? They keep doing it over and over and over again, which provides huge opportunities for me. It's not great for all of the people that they try and harm. Not all of them will have access to litigation financing, but it is the way of the world. So hopefully that gives you a reasonable example of how litigation financing works in the real world.
Oh, you put it in a fantastic way. And I think this is really key because even me personally, I went through some challenges on these areas. And ironically, because I was not very well advised, I walked away and I lost millions of dollars. And so I understand that a lot of people listening to us probably they will think more about this. And this shows as well that the challenge that exists when it comes to, first of all, legal cases, because most of the people are ill-advised and they have little to no expertise on this. And especially entrepreneurs or even people that create value IP are always struggling to understand how to use this. So that brings me to my next question that is, we touched before. So we are in a very fast changing ecosystems in terms of technology, in terms of regulatory fields, where we have in one end the bridges between centralized legal finance and decentralized legal finance. And there's two things. And of course, if you put on this the top of geopolitics, this becomes a very crazy mix. So yep. I would like to see how you see these bridges firstly. And as well, I know that you have a company that is partly based in Switzerland, which is, of course, yep. very strong, both legal and financial ecosystem. But I would like to see how they see this, because of course, what is going to happen, and I know that you guys are one of the first platforms offering precisely a lot of this within the blockchain world, which I think is going to be a big thing for both your organization, but as well for the blockchain world in itself.
Yes. So look, I think there's a lot in there. So let's start at the beginning. I think the first thing is why are we in the blockchain? What does it mean? And I think going back to what we talked about at the beginning, I came from nothing. When I was running this fund, this $1 billion fund, look, there were a couple of things that were going on. I understand that I don't wake up in the morning and save babies, okay? But I only take cases where I believe that we are helping somebody who has been wronged. And there are two reasons for that. One is because I'm a human being and I care, and the system is hugely tilted towards the person that has more money today, not justice. The second thing is it's good business, okay? At the end of the day, judges and arbitrators are people too, and all things being equal, they would like to do the right thing for people. So that's number one, okay? But I was taking money from the 1%, because in the United States and a number of other jurisdictions, you can only invest in private equity today if you have over $1 million of liquidity, okay? Some of the smartest people I know have less than $1 million of liquidity. And some of the dumbest people I know have more. And that arbitrary line is coming to an end. The democratization of finance, the democratization of private equity is coming to an end. The reason why most people that are watching this, when they hear litigation financing is the best performing asset class, I would have heard of that. You know, I haven't heard about it because 99.9% of the world isn't allowed to invest in it today. Okay. And my parents, going back to the beginning, were not allowed to invest in my fund. They couldn't. It was one of the biggest disputes that I had when I was there. They did not have $1 million of liquidity and they could not participate. So when we were sitting down to form Litty Capital, and Jonas was saying, you got to do this, you got to jump in this with me. There were a couple of things that we talked about. The first thing and the most important thing from a bridge, from my perspective, is everybody should have the right to invest in private equity. Okay, the democratization of private equity is critical. This is not currency. And there's a big difference. A lot of people that are investing in crypto right now are looking for 10, 20, 30x, Dogecoin, 10,000x returns. That is not what we are. We are the next generation of fintech. We are an operating company. We are based in Switzerland. We'll talk about how we're structured under their laws. We have cash flows that you as a token holder are entitled to. If Bitcoin goes to zero and Ethereum goes to zero, guess what? You still have the right to the cash flows that emanate from the investments that I make. This is an actual company with actual equity that is traded on the blockchain. And bringing this asset class to everybody is what gets us out of bed every single morning. It's what we think about when we go to sleep every single night. Everybody in the world should have the right to have secured underlying assets and returns that are going to generate consistent, safe value. So that was number one. And that is bridge number one. Number two is I was still kind of teetering a little bit. I wasn't sure, whether it made sense to jump in with both feet. And then Jonas said, how about this? How about we take 5 to 10% of every dollar we raise, not revenue that we have, not profit that we make, 5 to 10% of every dollar that we raise and give it back to the community. Okay. That we, for no profit, have ability for people who have lost, $50,000, $100,000, where it would never be economical to help them. Okay. The really bad news is if you've lost $50,000 to $100,000, it is almost certainly gone because it will cost you a couple of times that in order to get it back. And we are going to be there to help people that are getting scammed, that are getting defrauded in this space. And yeah, we're lucky enough to be in a position to be able to do that. Jonas and I have been lucky enough to be very successful. And once he told me that, I was all in. So the bridge for us is the democratization of finance so that we are helping the little guy and we are being funded by the little guy and we are giving our cash also back to the little guy. I have no problem with the big guys. They're welcome to, but it shouldn't be exclusive. So between that and the ability to really give back and make an impact on the community, that is the bridge for us with the blockchain.
Fantastic point that I think it's more and more important for everyone in the blockchain industry, and as well, especially for anyone that is dealing with these things. I think I would say for any business, because this is increasingly more important, especially as business become digital, become disruptive. And I think everything that you explained very well will going to be more important because any small company can have problems with an IP, can have problems with trademark, can have problems with some kind of fraud, some kind of issues. So let's go through Litti Capital. So yeah, you touched partly what is Litti Capital with the solutions that you are offering, but can you explain how it works? You have as well an equity base that you mentioned, Swiss base, that is quite interesting. You have 2 tokens, and as well you have different products and different solutions.
Yeah. So first I have to tell you something a little bit embarrassing. My daughter, who loves me very much, brought me a coffee that looks like this. And so if you see me,
enjoy.
She knows I like whipped cream, but I can't actually get to the coffee. So I apologize for that. very important to actually get to the coffee. I would put it
Don't
directly in my
apologize.
veins if I could. So our structure is an interesting structure and a different structure. And the reason that the company is set up in this way is to be regulation proof. And that is extremely important. It's extremely important for a bunch of reasons. The most important of which is our job at the end of the day is to safeguard your money, number one. Number two is to make you a return. If in giving us your money, if in entrusting us as a fiduciaries to make investments for you, there is a risk that you could wake up one morning and regulation could come in that would make your investment worthless. That is not an acceptable situation for any company that I am involved in, and that is not the kind of company that we are. So what we did is we set out to set up a structure that would be compliant with both US, EU, any Asian country, Pan-Asian regulations that are out there that are being proposed. And what we came up with was a two-tiered structure, okay? And it starts with the fact that we are one of 4 companies in the world that has an approval from the Swiss regulators to offer an equity token. What does that mean? What that means is that we are actually regulatorily approved to do what we are doing in Switzerland. We are not going to get shut down. Guess what else it means? We have a company there. We have offices. We have headquarters. This is super important. We're not hiding who we are. This is the most important. We are subject to Swiss law. Unlike a lot of people in this space today who can do anything they want and there is no way to chase them on your own, we are in Switzerland. We are subject to Swiss law. We can't go anywhere. You as token holders have the same rights as shareholders in any company would have. We're very proud of that. It's very important. It is one way that you can be comfortable that your money is safe. And by the way, we are one of 4, but there will be more. This is the next generation, right? This time is coming. Okay, so we have a Swiss structure. We have our equity token. It's called the Litty token, all right? That people can buy. And the way that we have set that up is that that token can only be purchased by people that are subject to the same rules that we were talking about earlier. So my parents could not purchase a Litty token because they don't have $1 million of liquidity. Boo, right? Boo. How do we solve that problem? The way that we solve that problem is that we have a dual structure token. The Litty can be converted within 30 seconds, literally 30 seconds, and converted back into what's called the W-Litty, which is just a fancy way of saying wrapped Litty. The W-Litty is the token that is traded on all of the exchanges that we're on. Bitcoin.com, HitBTC, Changely, Changely Pro, Uniswap. That is our equity token. Anyone in the world can buy that. You can buy 3 cents worth, you could buy 5 cents worth, or you can buy $5 million worth, and you can participate in the underlying value of the company. And that token doesn't require any KYC. It doesn't require you to be an accredited investor. You can buy, sell, and trade that token anywhere you want. And so that dual structure system is the core of what Litty Capital is. And it balances in the best way that we can. It balances the necessary interaction between being regulatorily compliant and being able to be offered to everybody.
That's amazing. And I think actually that's one of the reasons, and legal disclaimer, I'm involved as well, you guys, because I believe this is super necessary. And it's necessary from a lot of layers, from the layers like you described of democratizing litigation finance, but as well, all the innovation comes out of this and actually all the transparency. So yeah. I want to touch precisely some of the projects that you're working right now with Litti Capital. So sure. You have mentioned about the structure, the organization, the Swiss footprint, but as well the global regulatory footprint, and as well open to the crypto world in a lot of different ways, which I think is key. So One of the things that you have in your website, in your communication, is that Liti Capital is creating a platform to defend, educate, and create the legal litigation basis for the crypto community in the layers of B2B and B2C for institutions and for privates and individuals, and as well look at better ways to fight crypto fraud worldwide. So can you tell us how do you intend to do this, and what are the challenges that you see when it comes to this?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big question, but I think it's an important one. So fighting back is critical to what we're doing, and I think one of the things, just going back to the beginning with Jonas and I, one of the things that, in all seriousness, when we were doing this, we were saying, look, if we're going to do this, then we have to do it in a way where we're creating the dream. And the dream scenario is getting money from the community, making money for the community, and doing good at the same time. And so everything about Litti Capital has been structured to achieve that ecosystem. And fighting back against crypto fraud, crypto scams, and protecting people who are harmed, even outside of crypto, by the huge co's of the world or the bad guys of the world, is really the core of what we're doing. And we are doing it both to make profit, but we are also doing it to give back. So let's start with the educational piece first. The educational piece is a huge part of what is going to be going on with Litti Capital in the next 3 to 6 months. There are a number of things that if people spend a couple of minutes, 10, 15 minutes reading through, and you use it as a guideline for if you should go forward with something or not, we think it's gonna help a lot to minimize a little bit some of the problems that are happening in our community, which is a poison. I do not know a single person that has been in crypto for more than 6 months that has not been scammed or rug pulled or been in a situation where they somehow have had money just basically taken from them. So let me give you a couple of examples. Okay. So if you are talking to somebody only over Telegram and they tell you that there is a deal available, but it must be done in the next hour or two, odds are it's completely fake. There are no deals that look amazing that must be done in an hour or two, or else they're going to disappear. Okay. Those deals don't actually exist. Real deals that are out there don't need to be done in an hour or two. And if they do, people can get on the phone. They can get on a video chat. You can see identification or proof of who they are. Otherwise, 99 out of 100 times, that money is going to be gone. Second tip, if you get a telegram from somebody that you know that is asking you for money or currency, go immediately into the telegram and check first their actual underlying username. I cannot tell you how many people impersonate me and Jonas, and they have the same outward name, but they make an I an L, right? Or an L a 1 in the underlying Telegram username to try and swindle people out of money. So there are a whole bunch of things. There's 5 to 10 things that if you just have a basic checklist, it's not going to stop crypto fraud or crypto scam. But that 5 to 10% difference that it's going to mean is going to be impactful for the community, and it sure as heck is going to be impactful for you, because anytime that you save money from a scammer is a win. So on the educational process, there is the education for the community to try and help minimize some of these scams. Then there is the education of what Litti Capital is. And that Dinis, you and I talk about that all the time. That's critical. Being a fiduciary for people's money and using that money to make more money, I'm an old hand. Couldn't feel more comfortable about that. Crypto and getting the word out to this community that this option is here That I'm new to. And that to me is a huge part of what we're trying to do. I cannot sit here and say that our goal is private equity for everyone if we can't get the message out to everyone that one, this option is here, and two, that it's an option that everybody should participate in, not your whole bag. When people tell me, hey, I have my whole bag in you, you know what I tell them? Don't do that. Your whole bag should be nowhere. You have to create a portfolio. You should have some portion of your bag in things that you think are going to be 10 to 20x, and you should have some portion of your bag in safer assets like us that we're looking to generate 30 to 50% cash on cash returns every year, right? And so I think that you need to have a portfolio type of approach, but we have to explain to people who we are, that we're here, and get the message out. So that's education process number two.
Very good advice. And I think I really think that when everyone gets into this, the more advice, the more learning we get. So we need to go through that. And I think that's a challenge that is still that even me, like you mentioned, everyone has been going through a lot of the challenges, but very few people have as well the detail how to put these things in practice. And that's, I think, probably the biggest challenge that we're facing nowadays. With in one end, there's a lot of fantastic things, but at the same time, there's a lot of layers and a lot of challenges. So one of the things that you offer, and let's go through that, you touched that, but I want to go more in specific, is private equity for everyone. Okay, so you touched this recently, but I want to go, how does it work? Okay, so from the token, from the different things, let's say someone that knows little, because for instance, ironically, I've been having, of course, been on the both blockchain industry since the beginning. Actually, I remember since actually Bitcoin started, I was already involved, but a lot of people listen to us. And like you said, for instance, even for instance, there was a case of global personalities that have been experts in blockchain and crypto that actually didn't make a lot of money, because a lot of the people that make money is the people that have already money because they can afford to multiply and work on that. So how does it work, the Liti Capital part of the private equity for everyone in a very practical level? I think the theory, we get it there, but let's on a practical level.
Yeah, so here's how it works. You go on one of the sites that we talked about, one of the exchanges, whichever one you're comfortable. Our token is there. It's called the Litty. You purchase that token. Now you have it. And there are two different things that will happen. In the background, I am going to be making investments with the team in litigations. Okay. And let's say, for example, the litigation that we talked about, with you and HugeCo. If we made $7.5 million on that, we are dividending out $7.5 million to the company's shareholders. And so what that means is that there will actually be cash coming out to Litty token holders. And by the way, it doesn't matter what Ethereum or Bitcoin are, right? That money is coming to you because it is different than a currency, which has value and which is critical, but its value is based on what we all agree its value is, right? With an equity token and a company that is investing in actual assets, we get liens over those assets, we get the money, and that money is coming out to you. If somebody says a Litty token is worth $2 and everybody agrees that a Litty token is worth only $2, if the minute that $7.5 million comes out, that's what it's worth, right? And so I think it is important to keep in mind that the way that it works is we take in the money and we invest it. We do not take that money home, right? We do not print more currency, raise money, and put it in our pocket. When you give us money, we take the money, we invest that money, and we get our return at the same time you get your return. And so we are completely aligned in terms of distributing that money out to our holders. And there are two ways for you as a holder to benefit from that. The first is if you want to be a Litty token holder, then you get the dividends directly. If you want to be a Litty holder, then you are able to trade in, out, and around the price. And so if we say we have $7.5 million that's about to be dividended out, guess what's going to happen to the price of the Litty? It's going to go up, right? Because there's cash coming out and you can sell and trade around that. And so whether you're getting dividends or whether you're taking advantage of trading, it is a very unique and beneficial structure. What I like about it is that by investing in this company, you get two things. You own a portion of the underlying cash flows of a real company that operates every day, that is out there trying to make money for you every day. But you also get a one-way option on crypto. That's the beauty of this, right? If Ethereum goes to zero, gets regulated out of existence, you still are going to have a tremendous amount of value by owning Litty tokens. Okay. That's amazing. It's not tied to that on the downside, but on the upside, because we are on the ERC20 chain, if Ethereum goes to 15,000, right? Even if I do nothing right, you're still going to make money because the token price is tied to the underlying Ethereum. So you would make 5 times on your money on a relative basis. And so it is a very, very powerful thing to be able to participate in the upside of cryptocurrency without having to face the downside of being regulated out of existence. Did that help? Did that answer the question?
No, it's very straightforward. And I think for people listening to us, of course, do your diligence, learn. And I always like to put the disclaimer, this is not investment advisor.
Sure.
David is a lawyer, knows better than anyone else. But I think it's important to look at these solutions and learning, because I think the purpose of this YouTube podcast series is a lot of education, but as well a lot of thought leadership with leaders like David that know what they're talking about. So David, I want to go, and I know that we passed 1 hour, but I still have a couple of questions. So sure. I'll try to respect your time, but as well go through a couple of things. So one of the first things that you guys have been working is the project, which is a global project, that is the Binance claim. Yep. And I think this is a particularly important project because Binance, for instance, I think they got alone in 2021, $5 trillion of trading passing through their platform. So it's not a small player, no. But there's a lot of challenges. For instance, if you look at Binance issues, there's 1 billion plus search results for that. And effectively, although it's a great platform, it has a lot of challenges, and a lot of people have lost substantial money with Binance. So can you tell us what is Binance claim and how you're trying to find solutions for this? Because I know that you're trying to find a bridge as well here to create solutions, but as well to look at a problem that exists.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is another perfect real world example of the power of Litti Capital to impact people's lives. So Binance had huge problems on May 19th. I think most of the crypto community knows what happened. One example that I like to give is Bitcoin's crashing. And one of the people that is in our group had $12 million in a Binance account. And as Bitcoin's going down, there's video evidence of this, of him sitting there trying to close his contract out, a Binance futures contract. So not something that he could go to another exchange and close out if it was Bitcoin or Ethereum, but a Binance futures contract. And Binance's site didn't work. Okay, still going, trying to close it out. By the time Binance's site worked, he had $0.00 in his account. Binance site didn't work. Binance, when the site started working, decided in its discretion to completely liquidate his margin account, and he ended up with zero. This is different than somebody losing money because they made a wrong decision or investment on whether Bitcoin was going to go up or down. So sad, too bad for those guys. But when you are sitting there actively trying to close, and you have evidence that you are actively trying to close out your account, and you can't do it, and it goes to zero, whose responsibility is that? If it is not Binance's responsibility, then then they can just take your money anytime, right? Anytime they want, they can make the site not work, liquidate your margin account, and it's just, you're just hoping and praying that every day they don't decide that they want to take your money. Now multiply that times millions of users and hundreds of millions of dollars of people being hurt. So what do these people do? To bring a single claim, right? We can talk about this in more detail. Just the fees and costs associated with bringing an arbitration claim, which is the only place Binance has agreed to be sued, are in excess of $65,000, right? So think about that. There were 700 people in a Discord group of traders that got together to try and organize to do something against Binance. If each of them had to bring a claim, it would cost them $45.5 million just to be heard. We're not talking about, well, that doesn't include lawyer fees. It doesn't include experts. It doesn't include copies or the airplane flights to get out to Hong Kong, which is the only place that they have agreed to be sued. And Binance also set it up where the most that you could ever recover is 12 months of the fees you paid them. So on every trade that's done on Binance, a tiny portion of that trade goes to fees. And 12 months of those fees are the most that you could ever get. So even the guy who lost $12 million, okay, the maximum amount that he could recover from Binance is less than the cost of bringing the claim. All right. So now imagine you're in the UK, US, Russia, and you wake up one morning and you lose this, and your only option is to go to Hong Kong, spend hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to fight a global behemoth. What do? Well, nobody did it, because in the real world, that is a very difficult and likely bad decision for each person to make. That's where we came in. We saw a Wall Street Journal article of these 700 traders that got grouped together, and we actually got a call. So we have on our website ability for you to reach out to us if something happened to you or you've been scammed and you needed help. And we got a reach out from this group of people that were in the Wall Street Journal article. You should Google it. It's a great article where they talked about what happened. And the minute I heard what happened to them, I said, we got to do something. And so we reached an agreement to fund $5 million to defend and bring an action against anybody who has been harmed by Binance. And we get 30% of the upside. So similar to the example that I gave you. And now what's happened? Now we are going to bring an action against Binance. We have had thousands of people go to the site. We have had hundreds of people sign up, and we are going to bring a claim. There is ultimately going to be an adjudication of whether Binance's actions with respect to its consumers are okay. And whereas before, none of these people practically had any option of getting their money back, now for free, with no risk, it takes 5 minutes or less to sign up on BinanceClaim.com. They are getting they're getting it paid for by me, representation from White & Case, which is the #1 international arbitration firm in the world, the best experts and team around the world. And you know what? If we lose, guess what happens? Nothing. There's no downside. There's no cost. Nothing. If we win, we're going to send you a check, and you have an opportunity to get your money back. And so that, to me, this is a case I'm very, very proud of. It's in this community. It is helping the community. The money that we are putting in to bring this action comes from the community. And I think it's a really great real world example of the power of litigation finance to step in and allow for them to be some fairness in a system that is really rigged towards the big guy at this point.
Fantastic. So this is actually lets me think a lot of opportunities here. So I think it's a really big thing. I was looking and preparing for the interview, and of course I started being involved in the project, and I know a lot of people that had went through these problems. I went myself through a couple of these problems with a couple of platforms, and actually effectively I'm learning more and more about this. So let's go from the theory to the practice. So let's say I lost or I had some misuse with Binance or another exchange. So how do I come to Liti Capital, to your team? How do I get into this? How do I feel that I am in the right place?
Yeah, it's super easy. If you have been harmed by Binance, it doesn't have to be on May 19th, at any point in the last year, super simple, BinanceClaim.com. Just go, I'm going to say it again, to BinanceClaim.com, super easy. You'll see it. There's about 7 or 8 questions, basic questions that you have to answer. Once you submit those, our team will review your answers, and then they will send you 2 documents, which you sign, which are your documents to sign up for the group. It's agreeing that White and Case can represent you, and that the structure that we have in place is acceptable to you, that you have no risk, there's nothing else you need to do, and that if we win, you will get 70% of the proceeds. That's it. It's even a DocuSign. You don't even have to print and send it back. And then you're done. And then you are represented by this team, and we will go on your behalf, and we will try and get justice. We will fight for you. We will arbitrate for you. And ultimately, we will get you, if we win, we will get you guys the cash that was taken from you. And so it really couldn't be easier. It's just going to BinanceClaim.com, spending 5 minutes, and then you never have to think about it again if you don't want to, and you may get a check at the end of the day. And so, or a wire, or some Ethereum, or Bitcoin, whatever they took from you is what you would be entitled to and what they would have to give back. So I can't stress enough how easy it is. There's just no downside to it at all. If you've been harmed or you think you've been harmed, just go to BinanceClaim.com, take a look, trust me, it'll be worth it.
And definitely this is something that I urge everyone listening to us, because I think there's a lot of solutions. We need to think about the solutions. And I think, like you said, David, this is a great opportunity to really reestablish all the challenge that we have. So from Binance Claim, we put all the links and all the description how people can actually find this for people listening to us. So you are working in a much bigger platform and as well, I would say almost like a think tank / product. That is the platform CryptoWatchdog.org. So this is a much larger concept, and I think it's important because there's nothing like this in the world. And for instance, one of the challenge, although ironically, all the transactions on crypto are somehow in a ledger. So that means it should be easy to find them, and should be easy, like even what you discussed, to understand these problems. But the problem is that the real world doesn't look at the technology and so forth, and most of the technology in the world is still paper. So what is this concept that you're working right now? I know that this is a much more ambitious project, and legal disclaimer, I'll be involved as well, and I'm very excited about it. The idea of a crypto watchdog, because there's actually no platform in the world that touches all these different things, and there's a huge need of this. So can you tell us what is this? And I know that you've been working already on similar projects before, but now you're putting together something more interesting.
Yeah, so it's a great question. I'm glad you asked it. It is an ambitious project for sure, but one that is near and dear to my heart. I know it's near and dear to your heart, and we're committed to getting this done. There are 2 major parts for it. The first is through CryptoWatchdog.com, or Crypto Watchdog program, I should say. We are going to start to implement the 5 to 10% of the money we raised giving back to the community. So we have gotten hundreds of emails from people, heartbreaking emails from people about scams that they have been harmed by, frauds that have happened to them. And we have selected 10 cases that we are going to put on the Crypto Watchdog platform. And our community members are going to get to vote. And whatever the highest vote total case is the case that we are going to take at no profit to us to try and actually bring that person some justice. Now, I've said before, and I'll say it again here, if 2 cases are within 5%, so if the winning case gets 27% and the second place gets 25%, we will take both. And that is I really hope that that happens, by the way. It is an ongoing process of us giving back to the community. So that's going to be the beginnings. But like you said, it's a small piece of it, right? That is going to be the way that we're going to implement the 5 to 10%, but it's much, much, much bigger than that. It is a place, and we talked about it a lot in this interview, we are dedicated to giving back to the community. This is the place where the community is going to be able to go to try and help fight, to help individuals, everybody fight these scammers every day. There's going to be education about how to check on whether something is real or not real. There's going to be resources that are going to be there for people, including real live human beings, lawyers, and other experts that to the extent you need to talk to somebody because you have a question, that there are actually people there who are going to be on chat, maybe even, wait for it, this is crazy in crypto world, a phone number where you can talk to a real human being. We are actively brainstorming ideas and we would love to hear them from the community. If you come on Twitter or Telegram, Instagram, we are Reddit, we are on all of these platforms and more. Tell us what you think this platform should include, but this is our effort for there to be a centralized place for people to get the knowledge that we have, to add to the community knowledge, and to actually speak to real human beings to try and start fighting back, really, against these scammers. I mean, they are the blockchain and DeFi, the decentralization. Just on a personal note, I believe it is the future. I believe it is the next iteration of the internet. And you said something at the beginning of this interview that I want to go back to, which is you were talking about other countries. And, you know, I'll tell you, when I was running the private equity firm, I was traveling 200, 220 days a year. And, you know, I love cryptocurrency and everything about the blockchain, but it's different than my friends in Venezuela or Argentina or South Africa, where for decades, people would work hard every day and they would wake up in the morning, and because their government decided to depreciate the currency, the value of their savings went to effectively zero, right? Inflation at 10,000% in Venezuela over the last couple of years. Cryptocurrency has changed everything. People can work and transact in a way that is safe, that the government cannot change, and no government can change the innate value of the services and the money that they have and interact with. I mean, this is changing the world, what's going on here, and it's not going to stop. This is the absolute future. And I'll tell you what, the fact that these scammers are standing in the way of it, the fact that these scammers are going out and making it hard for people to access this system with trust and with confidence, and for additional capital to throw into this, that is beyond just the $50 or $1,000 or $2,000 individuals lose. It is bad for the entire community, not just the crypto community. And so we need a resource. We need a centralized place. We need some place that people can go to start the process of education, discussion, centralized information, which will allow people to start to fight back. And we are, I couldn't be more focused on this. I couldn't be more excited about putting it together and implementing it. And I frankly couldn't be more thrilled, Dinis, that you agreed to join the team to help out with that.
Yeah, no, I think this is something that I'm glad you guys are taking this. And I will just, I still have one last question, but just as some numbers, just on Binance alone. So Binance is the largest cryptocurrency platform in the world and processed over $5.4 trillion of crypto transactions so far. And this was around 2021 in June. We are in August. And from official complaints taken by the Freedom of Information Act request with Federal Trade Commission in the US, there was 760 complaints filed since June 2020 alone. This is public numbers, okay? I'm not saying anything wrong. And I think this is a big thing because, of course, Binance is the biggest. There's small ones that are much worse. So I think there's a sense of responsibility, and I think we only will make really a more fair organization and business if we will find solutions, like you said, that are transparent and everyone wins. Okay, I think there's enough money to be made by everyone, but I think this is a critical element. And there's a lot of research by universities, I know that there's a lot of relationships, but this right now, and I want to touch probably my last question because there's a lot of information for people to digest. But David, you have a very strong corporate relationships with big funds, multi-billion-dollar funds and big law firms. So this is right now no longer just for people that lost some money with Binance. We're talking about big corporations that are right now trading, from the Teslas of this world, to JP Morgans, and to the even all big corporations are starting to have a huge, sometimes percentage of their assets in crypto.
Yep.
But that's family offices, there's VCs. Andreessen Horowitz is one of the biggest funds that has a substantial part in crypto. So how do you look at this from a B2B to B2C and the relationships that you are creating within the industry? Because I think that's very important for the credibility and as well to unite people around the world that might have some questions around this. Because in the end of the day, we all win if there's at least some transparency and some body of outreach. That is what you're trying to do.
Yeah, it's critical. I mean, the ability to build a coalition around this concept, that is where it starts, the middle, and the end. Everybody needs to get together and play their role. And we are spending time both with individuals, with businesses, and with corporations to build the coalition. And I think, you know, at the end of the day, it all goes back to what we were talking about a couple of times here, which is, why are we doing this? And the answer is we're doing this because we believe that we have a structure and a plan that is not only good for the community, but also makes people money. And what is better than that? It's not by mistake. That's the point of what we're creating: do good and make money. So not only does building that coalition do good for all the reasons we talked about, but it's also going to make token holders, our token holders, money. How does it? And everybody, not just us, cryptocurrency generally. Why? Because, you know, you were saying that these different family offices and corporations are coming in. Guess what? This much. They're tiny, just sort of putting a tip of a toe in, because it's not safe yet. It's not fully okayed by the regulatory organizations yet. And what will happen? Okay, how do you make money in any trade? Super easy. If there are more buyers than sellers, you're going to make money. That's it. That is the core of whether you make money in securities or currencies or trading of any kind. And I will tell you that if we can start to create trust, transparency, fairness, every day we do that, more and more capital that's sitting on the sidelines is going to come in. I mean, how many conversations do you have a week with people who are like, I'm hearing a lot about this crypto, I don't really know, how do I mean, it is, that conversation is happening millions of times every day around the world. And every time one of those people hears somebody that got scammed, they don't come in. Every time those people hear about good experiences and transparency and that it makes sense, and here's how you can do it, and it's not hard and it's safe, guess what they do? They come in, or they put more money in. And at the end of the day, not only is this good for the community, but it's good for people's bags. It's good for their trading, because if we can get additional capital to come in, especially from businesses and corporations, that is going to have there be much more buyers than sellers. And that is how we get to the next stage of the crypto evolution, which is coming. But the better we do our job, the faster it's going to come.
Completely. And I think this is the most important, because I think the real democratizing of the vision of what you're talking about DeFi and blockchain and all the innovation things that are fantastic within the industry will happen if we manage to get this. And that was always since I've been in the industry, since the beginning, this was always my focus. So I really am very grateful to have you here with us today. And to be honest, I will be working for you guys to succeed, because if you succeed, I think everyone can succeed. Because this is really mandatory that the industries and everyone worldwide have this. So, David, it's been 1 hour now. I will let you brief a bit and enjoy your day over there. I know that you are 24/7, but I think you need as well a break. So we'll put all the links to this. A lot of these parts of the interview will be cut in parts that we'll distribute through different channels. I would suggest people listening to us, please study this. Okay, it's not that I'm involved. Of course, I put the legal disclaimer, but this is really important for all of us to have a say on this, because a lot of people talk, okay, I don't understand this. Okay, what are you doing to change it? We can do it. We can actually work together on this. And that's what I've been urging my community and my network. But I think we are in the beginning. So I think the opportunity is still here, is that there's trillions of dollars being changed from across different assets and decentralized systems. There's a lot of innovation technology. So if you can create this frame, it's like the beginning of the internet. We can actually create the trust for everyone to be able to buy something online. Because in the beginning of the internet, people were struggling. It was just mostly always starts with a lot of issues, and then it becomes mainstream. So thank you, David. I don't know if there's any last questions you want to just suggest. I know that you have some benchmark dates that you're going to announce, but probably just a couple final things where people can find you and Liti Capital that we'll put as well in written, but coming from you is always more inspiring.
Yeah, no, definitely. First of all, thank you so much for having me. This is a phenomenal conversation. I really, I am 24/7, and I will tell you another secret. I'm kind of a dork. I love this stuff. So there's really nothing I'd rather be doing than, sitting down and kind of talking about the issues of the day and where we go. Couple of different things. First, if you've been harmed by Binance, BinanceClaim.com. Join us at Litty Capital, LittyCapital.com. Our Telegram is Litty Capital Official. On Twitter at Litty Capital. Come see us, join us, take a look around. Like Dinis said, do your diligence on us, just like you would any other project, and that you should any other project. And we would love to have you a part of the team. So, Dinis, this was great. Thank you so much for having me.
No, the pleasure is mine. And I think there will be the principle. One of the things we're going to be doing is some lives to discuss this. And we're going to bring a lot of global first people, and actually people that probably never know that actually had their problems talking about this. So I want to as well to highlight this, because I think it's about talking about the problems and the solutions, of course. And as well, there will be some ideas. I didn't touch this, but probably a second one I want to talk about legal litigation and NFTs, but we'll get that for the next call, because I think this one is a huge compressed. There's a lot of information here. So let's digest this. Thank you so much, David.
Thanks, Dinis.